What we have seen so far is related to what functionality you can control from the studio or what configurations are available in the studio. Now, let us go a step further. And now, I will tell you how many types of fields you can use in CRM. We have a total of 27 types of different fields available in CRM, which you can use. Let's go through each one of them in the sequence. So, first is text type. Now, where can you use text type? You can use it in the subject in the ticket model, or the name of the lead, the first name or last name of the contact. So, these are all the text input types where you can give any text input. What do text input type looks like? Let's go ahead and see that. So we are here in the studio, in the ticket module. Here I have a name field. This is a type of text input. Here if I put the properties, here if I open the properties, you can see here the type of field is text. How many types of fields are available? If you want to see it from the studio, you can click on the plus icon here, which is for creating a new field. Here, if you go to the field type, then these are all the types of fields that are available in the studio. Okay, so there is this text input that is to be used for text kind of input, where you can give any text input in alphanumeric. Even if you want to add any characters to it, you can add those as well. How does it look at the front end? Let's go ahead and see that too. So I will open the create form here on the ticket. This is the name field on the ticket form. This is a text input and this is currently required. That is why it is showing this red bar. But these types of inputs are where I can add my alphanumeric inputs. Let's say I have given the input here that my tally has not been working since last 10 days. The customer has raised this complaint. Also, I want to mention the customer name. So here I am providing customer name separated by hyphen. So this is my input, which I have entered in the name. And this field is a text input type, where you can see I have given text as an input. It also accepts the alphanumeric characters and it also accepts any special characters if you want to add, okay? So whatever is the text input, you can use it in this way. Next we have is the text area. Now text area and text are almost a similar field types. The only difference is the text area is that which can accept longer descriptions as inputs, whereas text is limited to a shorter number of characters or shorter number of inputs at the back end. So, this is the major difference between text input and text area. The text input can be used only up to some limited length, whereas you can use the text area to enter long description, which is the subject field here in the ticket, or the first name and last name of the contact. The inputs that we get here will be limited. Means the name of any user or customer won't be long enough so that I will have to give the input in 2 or 3 lines. And it is more than 3 or 4 words all in all. So whatever inputs we have where the limit is defined, it is not going to extend beyond a certain number of words. It is not going to be bigger than 10 words or 15 words max to max. In such cases, we will not consider it in the text area. We can consider it as a text. When there is a requirement to add some big content, like if I have received some input from the client in the mail and that input I want to mention somewhere in my tickets, or some of the leads I have followed up with customers. So, the customer has shared some new inputs with me related to that follow up or the opportunity I have created for the customer. So, what are the expectations from that opportunity? That I want to share with my team. So, all these inputs will be there. It is not limited to a certain number of words. Here, my input will be entered. It could be long description. I will mention there in full detail what I discussed with the client. What were their expectations or what were their problems? What was our discussion? How are we going to connect next? Or what is the further roadmap and all that? So the inputs that will be required in this case, these are called text area inputs. On the screen, you can see this type, this field resolution. This field is a text area input. And you can see from layout also. You will be able to differentiate the structure of the text field. or its layout definition is different as compared to the text area inputs. This is limited to one row, whereas number of rows for the resolution or how many number of columns of inputs it can accept, you can get all of them mentioned here. Here there will be text area inputs. You can also resize them. And similarly, when that input is showcased on the field also, there can be multiple number of characters. So, this is the difference between text input and the text area inputs. Next, we have is the URL field type. We can use the URL field type to store any hyperlink. As an example, if I have an account information available for my existing set of clients, I have to mention that those are the client's own businesses, own websites, and the URL of that website. So we can use URL field to store that input. What is URL field? Now, this can be a tricky question because customers also create test inputs to add URLs. The difference will be that if you're adding that input as a text instead of a URL, it will have no clickable link. So if you want to go to that specific hyperlink, you will not be able to redirect it directly from CRM. You will have to copy paste that input in your browser. So it is better that whatever you're expecting some hyperlink as an input, you create it in the URL type of field and not in the text input. For example, as we talked, like website is in the account module is a web URL. So let us see the example of URL field type in the CRM. I have the companies from open here. Here I have to input the website. Now, as I can see, the website field is not available here. So what I can do is I can go to my studio settings. Here, I'll go into accounts. Now here, if I see on the edit mode, like this view is called the edit view, which is identified from these names. That is, when, in which view, and what all changes you have to do or which layout has been set. You can see that from here. So currently that website field is not available in the edit view of my account module, but I want to place that field in the edit view. So I will have to search that field here first. When I search, I will understand over here that this field is available, but it is not placed. Also, we have this info icon. If I hover over it, I understand on which layouts it is not available right now. Wherever it is cross shown in red, that means these are the layouts where this field is missing. So I have to put this field in edit view and detail view of the web layout. Then only I will be able to provide this input and see how it looks. Similarly, in mobile layout also, this field is not available in edit detail and list. So we have to keep this field there as well. This kind of info icon is available for all the field types. From there, you will understand which field is enabled or not enabled. Okay? So let's go ahead and add this field website on the edit view and save it. Now we have added that field on the layout of edit view. Now let's go to the screen to the front end. And let's just refresh and see whether that field has appeared or not. So now you can see here we have enabled the website field. And this is how the website will look like. To differentiate from the normal text field, you can see that it is mentioned here. A placeholder is available. It mentions that you can add the URL type of input here. It expects something which is a hyperlink. Okay? So you can give that input here. Let's go ahead and add one account and see how hyperlinks will work over here. So I have provided the required field of inputs which I wanted. Let's go ahead and save this account. Now I had placed that field on the layout. But why is that field not visible here in the detail view? This could be the question that you might be having right now because I have provided the input. But why is it still not being displayed here? The reason is that the input we provided was only for the edit view. We have not yet placed that field in the detailed view. So if you have any information which you have put in the edit, but not in detail, then you will see that information when you write inputs in the form. But when you go to detailed view of that record, that information will not be visible. And that is why you have to always keep those fields in details view. These are the fields which you have provided in the edit mode as well for the input. So let's go ahead and add this field in the details section as well. And save it. Okay. So we have added this field in the detail view. Now let's go ahead and refresh on the front end and see whether the field input that we had entered on the website will be seen here or not. You can see here the website is currently available, and this, unlike the text input field, is a hyperlink. So I can click on this and go to this website. Okay. So this is how you can use the website kind of fields. Next we have is the number field. Now here along with the number, I have also written auto here. That is because the number type fields are basically used for the auto incremented numbers in CRM. Just like we input the ticket in CRM. So ticket number is something which gets generated automatically, and we share that ticket number with the customers so that they can acknowledge those tickets, that their tickets have been created in the system. And if they have any further concerns related to that ticket, they can connect to your team through that ticket number. So the ticket numbers are covered, the lead number is also covered. These are the auto-generated numbers that CRM creates, and these are called the number field input type. These inputs are not user-defined inputs, as I mentioned. So whenever you create a field, it is recommended that you do not use number as a field type, because the number inputs are only used for auto-generated field types. And on such number inputs, you cannot use any of the reports functionalities like aggregate functions for summation of finding out the average, etc. So it is recommended that you do not use the number field for any input where the numeric input is required, because these are used for the auto-generated numbers in CRM. Next we have is a integer field type. Now this is what you can use instead of numbers whenever you want to use any numeric input for any kind of field inputs. For example, if you need to mention quantity in your opportunity, or the quantity is required on the quotation, so you can use integer input in such fields. This input type accepts only numeric data. That means you cannot enter any alphabets here, or you cannot enter any kind of character inputs. Also, it does not accept decimal inputs, so you can only provide the whole number here and nothing else. For example, I have already told you what kind of inputs you can use this tool for. Next field type we have is decimal. Decimal inputs are similar to the integer inputs, but you can use decimals in this. So if there are any decimal inputs where you need to mention significant numbers, for example, quantity, sometimes it could also be in proportions. So you have to mention some quantity like half a kg or 3.5 units. So in such cases, you can use decimal input type rather than going for the integer input type. So wherever specific measurements are required, you can use the decimal input type. Here I have specifically mentioned that it is not applicable to all. That means decimal inputs are not necessarily relevant for each business process. Only where you have inputs which require the mention of significant digits like quantity. I have given you such an example. If your product is measured in kgs, or it is measured in half quantities, or in feet, or in meters, for all these cases, you will require the decimal input type as a field. Otherwise, you can use the integer field that we are providing. Let's go ahead and see how field type is used. So on the opportunity, this field quantity is of field type decimal. If I open the properties, I can see the input types. Here its input type is decimal. You can go on the form. Here, if I provide the quantity as 10 and a half, then it will accept it because this field type is decimal. It's not integer. Instead of this, if this field would have been integer type, then I could not provide this input here. It would only have accepted 10 as an input, and this zero point 0.5 that I had mentioned would have been removed from there. Next, we have is percentage inputs. Now you can use percentage inputs when you want to analyze the probability of winning an opportunity, or if you want to capture the ratio of something, that out of total, what was the total number of accepted outcome that was achieved. So in such cases, you can choose percentage type field here. Again, just like decimals, it could not be applicable to all. So if you really need this kind of measurements in your business process, then you should use the percentage field. Otherwise, you can keep that input. You will get all kinds of fields in CRM, and it is not necessary that because they are available in the CRM, you have to create those. Always go with whatever minimum is required to run CRM to achieve your business goals. Next input type we have is currency. Whenever you need monetary analysis from where you can track how much inflow is there or how much is the outflow, so in such cases, currency type is required. The best example of this field input could be sales price or the value of your quotation or the effort that your team puts in for ticket resolution and the charges that you request to the customer for it. So these ticket charges and all this kind of inputs are called currency input types. Another added advantage of currency inputs is that you can enable it on your OPR dashboard so that you can see your overall opportunities or your overall quotations which are currently in the funnel. Out of that, what is your expected amount or the expected value in the coming term or in the coming period? For this analysis, currency can play a very important role. And again, it becomes necessary to understand when to use currency inputs on any model and when not to use it, and also when to enable it on the dashboard and when it is not required. So let us see the example of currency field type. Here we have the expected amount of opportunities in opportunities. This is how you can identify a currency field in CRM. The currency field will have currency symbol like this. Now this currency symbol can also be configured. Where can we do this configuration? The link for the relevant chapter and relevant section of that chapter will be linked below this video. You can refer to it from there. Next field type we have is date input. Date inputs are used where you only have to capture the date of certain events. For example, if I want to do something like this, I have created some opportunity. So, what can I tell about the expected closure of that opportunity? So, for that, I will give the date input only because we can identify the expected closure only in terms of date. We cannot notify its exact time. So, date inputs are used for those cases where I have to tell the expected date of closure to someone, or if a ticket is getting closed, then I have to get its closure date captured somewhere, or the due date of that ticket has to be captured. So, in such cases, we can use date input. The date input capture only the date, they cannot capture the time inputs. Along with the date, we can also give time input, but this is not that field type. It will only capture the date. Date and time field are two different types of fields. Both of these fields are integral part of the dashboard and reporting analysis because certain activities that we carry out in CRM or whatever inputs we have entered, it will require a timely basis analysis for which date and time, both of these fields are very important, and the configurations that are available in the dashboard, like the periodic dashboard or an open dashboard, then the result dashboard, these dashboards need the same field types for their configuration, which you will have to provide overviews for your analysis or what activities you have planned today. That will be shown here. Or it will show you the input of last 30 days in the periodic range. So, on the basis of which date you're pulling it out, or the result or outcome that you're getting that is based on the close date, or that is based on the closure dates. So these all inputs are captured based on this date and time field. Out of that, we have just discussed about the date field. Next, we have is the date and time field. I will give you the demo of both of these together. So, I'm just explaining you the first of all the difference between both these fields. We have already seen about the date. It only captures the date input. The date and time inputs capture the date as well as the time. And where it can be used? It can be used where I have to mention the follow up. Now, if I'm following up with a lead, then I mention the date. But it is possible that I have to follow up on 10 different leads in a day. So, managing the time for such follow ups is also crucial because I have 10 leads for a single day. So, I will have to sort those 10 leads on some or the other priority, and accordingly, I can plan those calling activities or plan follow up activities. So, follow up date needs date and time type of input where I can mention the time along with date. Similarly, whatever is the system generated field, for example, created date or modified date. So, the input that is entered in all these fields, like when was this record created, so there the date as well as the date and time is important because I want to know specifically at what time was this lead or this opportunity was created in the system. Again, date and time type of fields are also integral for dashboard reporting analysis. So we are on the opportunity module. Here I have two different types of fields available, the expected close date and follow up date. If I go to the properties of expected close date, you can see that its type is date. That means when I open this field on the form, let's say I open the opportunities create form. The type of input that it can expect is date only. I cannot enter time here. As you can see, it mentions what kind of input it can expect. Here there is only date, month and year. It can only capture date. There is no time interval here. In the same manner, the other field type, which is the follow up date, if we see its field type in the studio, this is a date and time field. So here along with the date, you can also get the time captured. And on the form, you can see that the inputs which are opened here along with the date, the option of time is also available. So the user can also get the exact time mentioned here. So this is the difference between date field and the date and time field. Next field type we have is time. Time is the field input which just captures the time. The date inputs will not appear here. Again, just like decimal input types, the time input type may not be applicable for everyone. If you have any scenario where you have to mention business hours or what are the preferred calling timings of a client, then for that you can use time inputs. Otherwise, you can skip this input. Next input type we have is untouched. Untouched input type are basically used for aging analysis, where you will need to know how much time has passed for any record from the time you created that record in your system. Suppose I have created a lead. So, how much time has passed since that lead creation? We can use untouched type of field to identify it or to get it captured. You can also use the same field type to capture the difference between two fields. Let's say I have a field. The date is created on the ticket module and I have a field available on ticket module, close date. So, now if I want to capture the difference between these two date and time fields, where there is the total time period between ticket creation and ticket closure, I have to capture it along with its duration. So, for that, we can use this untouched field type. The untouched field type is mostly used in read format only, in read only formats. That means you can use these type of fields in the detail view for the analysis point of view. Because the user does not need to give any inputs manually, this field type should not be in edit mode anywhere. And to use this feature, you have to first enable the untouched since feature at the module level. Only then you can use this field type. Let us go ahead and see what is the untouched field type. Let us see its demo. How does it work? So let's see the demo on the studio section. Here I have opened the lead module, and in the lead I have two fields which I have created through untouched field type. One is how old and the other is untouched since. Let's see the properties of how old field. Here I will show you how we can use this field. The type of this field, as it is mentioned, is untouched type of field. And as soon as you create any untouched type of field, here you can also give inputs of from date or to date. You can capture the total duration from the date you have mentioned till the date. You can and you can showcase the aging mentioned here in CRM in three different ways. It could be number of days, it could be number of hours, or it could be number of minutes, depending on your choice of input. So the from date here, because this is how old. How old means how long has it been since this specified lead was created in the CRM. I want to capture this. So, how old is the difference between the creation date of the lead and the current duration? So, I will know from this that the time the lead is created in CRM till now, how much time has passed. And that difference I am storing in number of days. So, I have aging here in days. This is how the how old field will look like. We'll see how it looks on the form once. So I've opened a lead over here. The created date of this lead is 24th January 2023 at 3:40 p.m. And we are recording this on 1st of March at 4:56. So how old will show me the total number of days from the record created up till now. How much time it has taken for this record to be created in the system. For how much time has this lead been in the system. If I have to identify this, I will use this field how old. Another use of untouched field type is this field called untouched since. Let's see an example of what you can store in untouched since and how you can use this field. This is also the same type of field, untouched, but we are calculating its aging, that is from updated date till today. Earlier, we had seen an example that was from created date till today. So, how long has it been since it came into the system? We are measuring that. Untouched since is a field where we are identifying when was the lead last updated and how much time has passed since the last update. So to manage that, here we have taken the duration in days. Let's see on the front end how it looks. We will open the same lead again on which we saw how old. Here you're getting the option of untouched since. This was last updated 2 hours ago, and this lead was created in the system 36 days before. So, how an old untouched since both of these field types are of untouched, wherever wherever you have to identify anything field related, how much time has passed since something came into the system, or how much time has passed since the last update, you can use it for that type of aging analysis. The second example I told you, you can use it in that way also. Here you can mention that you have to store the difference between the two fields. Let's see once how that type of field can be created. Here I have taken the field type as untouched. As soon as I type the field, some inputs open here. I will be focusing only on these inputs for now. In from date, you can select the date, from which date you have to start calculating the difference. So let's say I want to find the difference from the time this ticket was created and the difference till its closing time. So here, rather than using now, by not finding its difference with the current date, meaning the other fields available at your module level, such as the date and time, you can also identify the difference between them. For example, here I am considering the difference between the created date and the close date. So we can say in this field, I want to capture what my closure time period was. So we can create the field which is closure time as untouched since type. There is there I can store the difference between these two fields. Now, whatever I have to store is in days, in hours, or in minutes. I can classify it that way here. And as soon as I save that field, two fields will be created in the system of this type of field, which will have the closure time. The two fields that will be formed will be something like this. Here, I have kept only one field in the display, how old. But if I see at the overall list of fields, here there are two fields. One is how old days, and another one is how old. So, whenever you're creating any field which is of untouched type, you get two fields. There is a field in which only number of days are captured or the number of minutes are captured, which you have mentioned. The second is where it captures all days, hours, and minutes. Ideally, in this field where days, hours, and minutes, all three are being captured, this can be used in your detail view section where I can measure how much time has passed for this specific record. The day difference you are identifying is in terms of the number of days, hours, and minutes that you can use in calculations whenever you're extracting reporting analysis. And you have any cumulative report requirement on where any aggregate function is to be used. I have to overall identify the average time to process any lead. What is the average time for any lead from generation to closure? The difference between that is the number of days on average. So you can identify this average only when you get it stored in one of these three formats, like number of days, hours, or minutes. The next field type we have is the checkbox. Checkbox field type is ideally when you have received any input, it either could be yes or no. Apart from these two, if there is no other option for the user to have any field inputs, then you can use checkbox type field inputs. I have listed some examples of these, like the current AMC or any contact, where I have to mark which is the primary contact. So either there is a primary contact or there is no primary contact. Only one of the two can be in the input. Similarly, in AMC, we have installed in the system whether it is a current AMC against this company or not. Where there are only two inputs, yes and no, for any field, there you can use the checkbox instead of the drop down or select option. Example, let's see how it looks in the front end. Here I have a taxable field type available in the product master. If I go ahead and see the properties of this field, here you will be able to see its type is available in this checkbox. Means either a product in which I deal it is taxable or it is not. Only two inputs are available for me. Rather than going for the select input where I provide the drop down, I can convert it to a checkbox and this is how it looks like. A checkbox like this appears in the checkbox field. You can also provide its default value. When you check the default input and provide it on the front end, whenever you go to that input type, you will see that the default checkbox checked will appear. You will require that nothing should be the default input of that checkbox, and if required, the user will check it. Otherwise, we'll leave it as it is, blank. In that case, you will provide it unchecked by default. So, this is all about the checkbox field type. Next field type we see select, which is also known as drop down field type. Drop down field type, these can only accept inputs which are predefined, like the source of the lead you have. It could be either one of the following which you have mentioned, like an email, a website, or leads that came from social media marketing, or which has come through a reference or through calling media. So these are all your sources. Identifying sources is something that every customer can identify and can give predefined inputs for it. Because everyone knows from which sources their business is coming. Where defined inputs are available, we can use a select field type. Another advantage of select feature is that you can use it for categorization. For example, if you have a line of products in your organization in which you deal and it's countable, or for the categories in which you deal are countable, if I do categorization, how many categories of products do I have against each and every category? What is the total number of subcategories that are available? And I manage them in my product master. So, if I have any leads or if I have any opportunities generated and I manage this categorization there, then it gives me an added advantage from where I can capture it. On OPR as well as in reporting analysis, How many opportunities are there for any specific set of products, or how many leads are there over a period of time? Some of the examples are, like I said, can be product type categorization or they can be subcategorization. Due to this, your reporting, which is generated from CRM, will become very effective because you will be able to identify from the product portfolio maximum businesses coming from. So, this is one of the examples. In this way, there are some other examples also where you can use this select field. Like here, I have mentioned for OPR analysis, there is a status of lead. So, it could be when the lead came into the system, it was at new stage or assigned stage. If someone works on it, it will progress. After a certain point, it will be converted or it could be marketed dead as per the salesperson's gut feeling, whether this customer will be converted into business or not. So, based on that, if you have statuses available, because for each and every process, you can define certain field inputs during certain stages. So, in such cases, you can create it in CRM by the method of select or drop down field. Its added advantage is your reporting will be easy. And because it is not a manual input, users have to select from predefined inputs. So you will get a standardization where the inputs are required on a regular basis. And proper analysis and proper reporting is required to get the results. So let's see how this select field type looks in the studio. Here I have the option of product category on the lead level. This is a select field type. So when I open its properties, so you can see options available where I have selected a DOM of a predefined list of inputs and what values are accepted in it. I can see related list here. So if I go to the inquiries edit form or create form, here if I go to the product category option, I can only provide some inputs from the available set of inputs. Otherwise, I will have to leave this field as blank. I cannot type anything over here. So this is what the select field will look like. Next we have is multi-select option, or else this is also a kind of drop down, but it allows multiple selection. Another thing is multi-select may not be applicable to everyone, and it can be used where you can give choices to your users to select, like where more than one input can be accepted. For example, color choices. If you are deciding on paints, then customers' color choices. To mention those color choices, it is possible that they have to identify more than one color segment, or else I have to manage it for that. Rather than using a single select or a drop down, I can provide a list of inputs where multiple can be selected. In the same way, another option we have given is for pizza toppings. So, what kind of toppings do you like on your pizza? To manage that, you can use this field if you are from a food segment. What does multi-select look like in CRM? Let's see that now. But before that, I just want to highlight that wherever it is possible, try to avoid using multi-select until and unless it is really necessary for you to manage this kind of choices. Because multi-select fields are, firstly, you will not be able to get its analysis on that OPR because OPR purely works on date or date and time field as well as the select fields. When you provide multiple inputs, reporting becomes a bit complicated because the reports are actually not that accurate. Let's see. I have multiple select option for product category, and if I have 100 leads, I have selected the product category as CRM and 20 leads where I have selected product category as Synapse. So whenever I try to pull out a report where I want to see if the product category is CRM or Synapse, so this can be achieved through the reports. But there I can get the same lead multiple times because I have mentioned two different segments, CRM as well as Synapse. So, the list of records which you will get, or the list of opportunities of leads, they might not be accurate. That is why using a multi select can sometimes be a complex thing, and we usually recommend our clients to avoid using it if it is necessary for their business. If it is not necessary for their business, let us see how it works. So, in Product Master, we have the option of taxes. It is a multi select. This means what kind of taxes I apply on the product I offer to my clients. For that, we have given a text option here. where it selects multiple options. If I look at the front end in CRM, then for taxes, you can see that multiple taxes are allowed. So I can select multiple taxes here at once. So this is the difference between a select and a multi-select field. When you use select, you can use only one input, whereas when you use a multi-select, it can accept multiple inputs at once. Next, let us see some of the examples where field types are used in contact details, like I have to store the address of a customer. To store the email address of a customer or to store their phone number, how to store these inputs? The first one is multi-address. Multi-address field, it is used for a purpose where I have to store various addresses of the company, like if I have the warehouse address available for the same company, the residential address is available, or the company address is available. Then I can store multiple addresses in a single record. Now, this can be a little tricky sometimes because some of the customers might also require branch wise reporting. How much business is generated from which branch? So, if you also have such needs where you have to identify the businesses of every branch that you receive, in this case, it is recommended that rather than using multi address, you create different accounts in CRM and then manage their addresses separately in different accounts or different companies. Because if companies remain separate, only then you can analyze it in terms of their business or in terms of its total service ticket that you have resolved for a specific branch. And you will have a different categorization. If that is not needed, and you just have to manage how much overall business is there from your organization, but at the same time, I want to understand how many different branches those companies operate from, then I can use this multi select, multi address option. The option available in CRM is linked with Google address. When you type something in the address field, Google will give you suggestions of the addresses that could be linked with it. You can select that here. As soon as you select that address, all the details of that addresses along with the PIN code, city and country get captured in the CRM automatically. Let's see a live example of multi-address. So I have opened my account studio in detail view. I have a field available here for address type. If I go to the properties, you can see that the type of field is multi-address. And how is this field visible on the front end? Let's go ahead and see. Here I will open companies. Let me go to the create form. You can see the address type. In this way, this field gets created in the system. Whatever you type here, since it is linked with Google, it will give you suggestions according to what you type. From Google, which one you have to pick. Let's say I go ahead and take the first one. If you hover over it, you will also be shown the exact address it will pick up. I want to pick the one that has the head office in Billard. So I will select this as my Google address. And whatever registered information is available in Google address, like Billard and area is available, a state is available, a PIN code is available, and a country is available. So all this information automatically comes into the type of address. You can mention the different ways of identifying this address. Like this is HO's address, or it is an address of a specific branch, or it is the address of the warehouse. In that way, you can use the address type from where it can be captured. The next field type we have is multi-email. Multi-email can be used where you have interaction with a customer that happens on multiple email addresses. Like if I have only one client, because he's dealing in two different profiles, they have two different email addresses available. In such cases, I have to store both email addresses of this client. Then I can use this multi-email field. An added advantage is that from both of these email addresses, you can always mark which one is the primary email address of this contact, which is always to be used for the communication. And in case that email address is not looked upon, then on which other ID we can connect. We also provide email validation in the email field. Now, when I say email validation, it means when you are typing something in that email field, the system will create for you whether that email syntax is valid or not. In email syntax, at the rate and domain are really important. If you are providing a proper email address or not, that will be validated in the system so that the user does not give any random information there. A proper email and syntax format will be approved. Next is email verification. Now, verification is different from validation. When we say validation, then it will only check the syntax. The input being provided to me, whether it is in the format which I can accept as an email address, that is validation, where the format of the email address gets checked. Whereas when we say email verification will actually go to a third party server with which our CRM is connected, and it will look for email addresses in that server to see if there is actually any email by this email address available and will give us the results. So I will know that email ID I am communicating with really exists or not. Now let's go ahead and see this live in CRM. This property, multi email, I am telling you about. How does it work? How can you use it? So this is my email type. Here you can see that the email address which is available in CRM, it is a multi-email type of field. And if I go to the record level on the create form, then there's some setup is available for email inputs where you can add multiple email addresses. If I add an address here, sales at the rate njworld.com dot. Now you can see I have not given proper validation. I have not followed the proper syntax of the email address. So in this case, it is giving me a message at the top that the email you have given is invalid because the email address syntax is not like this. Okay? So if I want to change it, I have to come here and change that syntax. Email address is valid or not. The status that is available, it is a verification status. There is no status of validation because I get validation only on screen. If any email address is not valid, then it will not allow you to save it. You will get that specific information at the account level, at the company level, or wherever you're checking it, because that format is not proper. So always provide the inputs in proper formats to avoid losing any data or any communication in the future. After validation comes verification. When I provide an email address, if I click out of that box, then the email address gets verified. Once it is verified from here, it shows me those options, what this email address can be. The status of verification can be any one of these. By default, it will not be verified. This means the email address I have entered in the system has not yet gone to the third party to get verification. This can be possible when you're uploading some data in the CRM in bulk from other software, or when you are initiating the CRM implementation and you have uploaded all your KYC for the first time. Then it will remain not verified. Unknown is something where you have provided an email address with the personalized domain of the client or the one which is known worldwide. Communication on it is not so frequent, so the domain reputation is not known. In this case, this email address will go to unknown. This means that the third party to which we are referring this email address, even that server also does not know whether that email is actually verified or not. In those cases, we get its status as unknown. Valid status means the email address I have provided can be confirmed by the third party server, and that an email ID by this mail ID actually exists. Next is invalid. This means the mail ID I have provided is being shown to me as invalid on a third party server, meaning the third party that I am using to validate my verify my email address says that this email address is wrong. Sometimes it may happen that we are getting a response from a third party that could actually not be true. This can be possible when information on a third party is coming through domain reputation. it is being called invalid, but you are communicating on the same email ID. So you know that the email address is valid. In such cases, you can forcefully mark it. This means that even though the third party is saying that this email address is not verified, but I know that it is a verified email address because I'm communicating on it, I will mark it as force valid. So that's the difference between validation and verification of an email. The next input field type we have is multi-phone. So just like email, you can have different numbers stored in the same contact where each and every number is used or identified by different numbers. When you communicate with multiple numbers with the same client, you can use multi-phone field. It is a set of contact numbers of the client. Here as well, you can mark any one phone number primary like in the email. You can also invalidate or unsubscribe it from phones. Let's say I had a history of communication with a client on his old number. Now, I don't want that old number to be removed from the system because I had some communication with him earlier. But I want the new number to be primary, and no one should use the old number in the system. So, to let my users know that the second number we have is invalid or it is not currently needed, we can invalidate or unsubscribe it. In the multi-phone field, we have also provided WhatsApp verification. So just like in case of email, we use third-party server. It tells us if a mail address is verified or not. Similarly, for phone numbers, we can verify their WhatsApp status, by which I will know whether this phone number is available on WhatsApp or not. Let's go ahead and see an example for the multi-phone field. So this is field type for multi-phone, and if I see on screen, there is the phone field where such inputs are available and where I can provide input. Let's say I'm providing input 95123600081. The first option here, that is for the marking this number as a primary, means this is my primary contact number on which you can connect with me. Then we have the WhatsApp verification status. If I know that this number is available on WhatsApp, I can mark it as valid. And if I have another number which I was using earlier for the communication with the client, let's say it was 91. But we are not using this number now. In that case, I can mark it invalid and mark it unsubscribe. Just for my user's reference, this number is not in use now, but at some point of time it was being used. Let me show you the multi-field types. How do they appear in the detail view? Let's go ahead and see that. So here I have opened the company in which I have email addresses and phone numbers available. Now, when there are multiple phones or emails available, which you have marked primary, will be directly visible to you on the form. And for the additional alternate numbers or the alternate email addresses, you can see that you will get a small dialog or a pop up where you can see the rest of the information. You can see some colors over here against each and every email ID. So when it is marked in green, that means that it is a valid email address because this is the primary address. It is visible at the top here and it is visible on the main form. The second email address is which is bhumi at ens.net.in. You can see here its color is blue, which means when I viewed this email address by accessing the verified server, it shows that such email address does not exist. But if I am communicating on this email address, I know that this email address exists. So I can force mark this mail address as valid, meaning I am saying that this address actually exists, but the server doesn't show me that information. Third, we have is this email ID, which is nj at abcsd.com, which is invalid because the domain that I have provided here, actually no such domain exists. So the third party is telling me that there is no such domain. The mail ID that you have entered is incorrect. So those which are invalid will be shown in yellow color. Those which are force valid, you will see them here in blue. You will see the ones which are verified in green. The ones that are not verified will appear in gray. And the ones which are unknown are shown in orange, which means that the third party does not know whether that email is actually verified or not. Similarly, for phone also, the phone which is primary, you will see it here at the front end. The and for the secondary numbers, you will see it in the information pop-up here. If it is shown in green color, that means this number is available on WhatsApp. If it is grayed out, then that means that number is not confirmed if it is available on WhatsApp or not. If it is not available, then in that case it will be marked in red, okay? And for addresses, you can see that this is how the addresses is displayed in the detail view. And if I see all the addresses at once, then there is only one address here. That's why it is showing me like this. If there are multiple addresses, it will show me the addresses in multiple rows here like this. So the field types we saw are all for contact detail types. Now let me address one more concern here. Whenever you use the email address or phone number field, if once you have already created multi-email field on the lead module, meaning email field has been taken once, then you cannot create another field of the same field type on that module. Same follows the multi-address as well as the phone type. Next, we have our field types, which are related with the relationship or media. What all field types do we have for this? First one is related field. Relate field is something which is useful for reporting. This field type, which is actually the same as relationship, only difference between the two is that when we create a relationship, the two modules which are being related, we can use the data of any module in the report at any point of time. Even in filters or in the display columns, same follows for the filters also in advanced search or in basic search. But in the relate field where I link it with the record, for example, if I linked if linked using relate as a field type where I'm referring only the lead on an opportunity, which was the lead of this opportunity, from which lead did it get converted it to opportunity. If for this I'm using relate as a field type, then what will happen in this case? I will only get the reference from the lead on opportunity. If I want the opportunity with which the lead is linked, meaning the opportunity we have created by converting a lead on that opportunity, I just want the reference of that lead, of the lead. In that case, we can make it as a relate field like this. But in case of business process, whenever a lead converts into an opportunity, there are times when I need much more information which can help me analyze this data even more. So, if I want to see the lead which is related to the opportunity, when was that lead generated in the system, who added that lead, who attended to that lead, when was the lead closed, or from which source did it generate? If I use all this information in relate type of field, it will not get it because it will only be able to give me the reference that this opportunity was created from which lead reference. But if I need all the information that follows, which I just listed, in that case, you will have to create a relationship between lead and opportunity. You cannot use lead as a relate field. Next option we have is for the flex relate. Now, when we say flex relate, it is almost like the relate type only. Only difference is that when I am relating, I get options just like you must have seen it in activity module in CRM or when you check in or check out. So, check in, check out is possible on any module where you have allowed it. If you have enabled the feature of check in, check out for any module, then you can use it there. So, Flex Relate also works in the same way. The modules on which you have enabled check in, check out, there it gets enabled in Flex Relate module. That means the one activity I am creating, I can link that activity with any one type of module. For example, in the activities module, I have linked an activity with a lead. I have linked one activity with opportunity and I have linked one activity with the ticket. I have used the same field, but I linked it with that lead at one place. At another place, I linked it with opportunity and at some other place with the ticket. So it is called flex relate. Means I'm not allotting predefined module to it. You can link it with any module. I'm giving freedom to the user. They can select with which module, when, and what to relate. So it is called flex relation. Its best example, as I said, is only for activities. In any medium or any other information, no purpose for this type of field is currently identified. And we also do not recommend that you create a field like this because it could complicate your requirement. Until and unless it is other than relationship tracking or activities tracking, it is not recommended that you use this field type. To use Flex Relate, you need to enable this option by going to features for that module. Only then you can relate to it. Otherwise, you cannot relate this field. Let's go ahead and see what is the difference between Flex Relate field type and Relate field type. And how can you identify it on the form? We have never used the relate field type on CRM till now because we never felt the need for it, because we assign more priority to the relationship so that it's easier for me to fetch any data as and when required from that related module. So we have never used the relate field yet. But the way this relate field or the relationship field looks on the form whenever any user has provided the input, it is similar. So I will show you how it will look like when you use relate type. Let's say I have a quotation to be created. Here in quotation, a link option has been given for the opportunity, or there is an option to select account or contact. So this is restricted to that specific module. When I want to link to the opportunity, I will get it only from the list of opportunities which I can relate here. The relate field looks like this, where you can see this type of an option. From here, I can search records of that module in CRM. There is a delete option as well. That means if I have selected some record by mistake and I want to change it, I can remove it and change it back. Okay. Generally, we understand the relate field is linked with which module from what label we have given to the relate field or the name of the field. Like here, I have created a field to relate an opportunity. Here, this field is made to relate the account. This is created to relate shipping account, which is also a gain account. Both of these are contact fields, contact related fields. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and see how Flex Relate looks like. So for Flex Relate, your Relate to option is available to you. In the activities, this is Flex Relate. Means I don't have any constraint that when I open this pop-up, I will get the data set of a specific module only from where I can link it. I can also relate it here with the company according to my preference at the time. Can relate it with inquiry, can link it with ticket also. So this is what is Flex Relate is like. It is flexible to be linked with any other module. So when I select ticket here, the list of information that it provides from where I can link this activity that will be related to ticket. In the same way, if I mention an opportunity or quotation here instead of the ticket, let's say I go ahead and select opportunity. So now if I will open this pop-up, it will only show me all the opportunities that are available in the system with which I can link it. So this is how you can use a flex relate. Next field type is audio. Audio field types are basically used when you have to give any kind of audio input. The best example for this is when you have linked your CRM with Synapse or any other telephonic systems, where I have to store the call recording on CRM, which I can refer at any point of time if required in future. You cannot create this field type from Studio. The only reason why we have captured or we have kept it as a part of this chapter is because you can know how many types of fields are available in the CRM. Audio field types are automatically created as and when you have any telephonic integration done. It gets enabled on the call model automatically. Audio field type is not applicable for everything because this input is not required very often. This type of data analysis may not be required for everyone, or the voice input might not be relevant to each and every business. So this field type, it may or may not be as per your business process. That's why we do not provide it by default. And it is not applicable to all. I have opened the call module here and I have one call record that I had logged in my CRM through Synapse. Now, the recording link of Synapse record or whatever call I recorded in the system is an audio field type. If I click this, open recording file, either I can download it or if I want, I can play it over here as well. If you download this audio file on your system as audio file, then you can listen to it. Next we have is created by. Created by information is auto generated in the system. It captures who has generated the records and who has added them in the system. The information of created by could not be updated once it is available in the system, meaning the name of the user who has created the record will appear on it. Created by gets updated in two ways. One, imagine you're manually entering a record or a new lead into the system. In that case, the login you're using to create the lead, the name of that specific profile will be set as your created by. I am creating a lead from my profile, but I want the name of another member who is going to work on this lead to appear in created by. Then you cannot do that. The person who is creating this lead created by will be captured with the same name. You cannot change that. Created by cannot be transferred from one person to another. The information created by you is updated only once in the system whenever that record is getting created. Next we have is assigned to. Assigned to is used to denote who will have the ownership of this specific record in CRM or this specific lead opportunity ticket or whatever other transaction you're using. If you don't mention assigned to by default, which while creating any record, then its default ownership will remain with you. You can change it if you want. It is transferable. Let's say I had the ownership of this lead when I created it, but now I want to transfer it to some other member, then I can. It will change the assigned user there. If I change assigned to, then I can transfer it to any other member. Whenever you are transferring that lead, if you have enabled notification for that specific module, then that person will also be notified that a new lead has been assigned to them. First, let us see how the user information that you can change gets managed in CRM. As soon as I open the create form for the lead here, you can see that assigned to and team both were automatically populated here. Whatever is being created at the time, default allocation or ownership will be of the profile you are using to create it. Like I'm using the system administrator profile right now. Here the system administrator is visible in assigned user. But if I want to change this ownership to one of the other team members who are going to work on this lead, then here I can change the assignment. Similarly, the team is there by default. What is the team allocation for my profile that is available as a system administrator? What's my team visibility set for that profile? That is set as default here. I can change that later as and when required. If I want multiple other team members to have this access, if I do not want to show this to everyone, I just want to create it, then I want its visibility to remain with me. And Ishani should have its visibility because she is going to work on it. Here I will mention only these two in team visibility. As a result of this only, me and Ishani along with our top hierarchy will have access to these leads. No other team member will have access to this lead. Now let's go and see how the fields which we have auto captured work in CRM. I have opened the lead over here. You can see that created at information of the lead is system generated. When it was created, its timestamp has been captured here. You can see this information only on the details view. You can't put it in edit view nor can you manipulate it. Similarly, created by is set only once. Whenever any record is getting created by the system, here it is showing system administrator. That means these leads are created through system administrators. You cannot change this information once it is created. It remains intact in the CRM. In the updated at, you are now able to see that it was updated on 1st March 2023 at 2:36 pm. And who updated it? Here, name of automation user is visible. Let's say if I make any changes to this. Let's say for the lead, let's say for the lead available with me, I I want to add product category as a software. And I want to change the follow up date from today to tomorrow. So I'm making two changes and I'm saving this information as leads. So after updating this lead, now you can see here in the updated at, the time interval which was visible earlier has changed because this record was just updated. The current timestamp will be captured in updated by. The name of the user using whose account the update is being done will appear. Now here you can see I had updated from the system user, then in updated by, why does it show automation NJ? So that's because I had also updated the follow up date here, and on follow up date we have one automation which updates the count of follow up dates. How many times any follow up date was updated? So if I go to the change log, I can see that after the changes I made, automation NJ changed this follow up date count, which was earlier changed to 5 and now it is changed to 6 times. So we are capturing follow up date count to see how many times it has changed for a lead. I am capturing that information through automation. Whenever I will update the follow up date, those many times this information will be updated in the system. So when I changed this record, I changed it from my profile. But after I saved it, some automation was run on it. In that, it identified what change took place on the basis of follow up date, and it has to update some information automatically on this record. Like when an account was updated, your updated by information changed. And it will show you as automation or automation NJ depending on the automation user created in your CRM, which is used for any if these automation activities. Next we have is field types. They either get automatically captured in the system or are dependent on the user. For example, we have created at. Created at is something which is stored automatically by the system as per server and date time. Whenever some new information is being created in the system, then it could be a lead, the lead which you are creating. So when was that lead created? The exact date and time of that lead will be captured there. This is set automatically. Whenever a new record is created in the system, once someone sets created at, it cannot be changed. That means once the information of when did you generate this record in our system gets updated, you cannot change it. Team visibility is something which is not auto decided, but it is auto captured from the user's profile and it can be manipulated later on. What does visibility mean? I have one lead available with me, or an opportunity or a ticket available in the system. Or it could be any other record. So, to which users do I have to assign the visibility of that record? I can manage it with the visibility control here. By default, if we are not providing any visibility by ourselves, so when I create a record, the visibility of that new record will be set according to the visibility set in my profile at that time. We can also transfer visibility from one user to another. For example, let's say when I created a lead, at that time I had mentioned visibility as only I should see this lead. Going ahead, I identified that along with me, someone else is going to work on this lead. So I want that lead to be available for visibility to another team member. In that case, I will have to add visibility of that team member in that lead. So that is doable. I can set multiple team visibilities on one record as and when required. There is another point here. When you provide visibility on a lead or for any other module, you never have to worry about providing that visibility to your top hierarchy. Means to whom you report or to whom they report, or those who are above me in the hierarchy level, they will get default visibility on the record level automatically. You don't need to add any visibility yourself. Visibility is only required to be added manually. In case you explicitly want to share it with some other team member who is not belonging to your direct hierarchy. Next field type we have is updated at. Updated at captures server's date and time, just like created date and time. But the difference is that the created date and time is captured only once in the system. Whereas whenever you update a record, the update at information changes those many times on the system. No one can change update. Until and unless you are updating or modifying any records, you cannot change the updated at information of that record. There can be two reasons for the information that goes in update at or the date and time which gets captured to change. One reason could be that the user himself is updating that record. When the user updated that information, that date and time will be captured in update at. Second, the reason for update at to be captured could be you have configured some automation or workflow in CRM. From there, some information is being updated on your record level. For example, if I have done some automation where whenever a lead is closed, be it a positive closure as converted or negative closure at lost, whenever it was closed, I want it to be captured that date in the system. For that, I have designed a workflow in the automation system which captures when a lead was closed. I am auto populating the close date. Now, even if I'm populating this information automatically, some changes are taking place on that record. I am updating that record by providing that automatic closure date. In this case, when the record is updated automatically, the update at information will change in the system. Next, we have is the updated by. That is, you can check who updated this lead record or any other record herein updated by. This is system generated, means if I am updating this record, then the system will capture my information in updated by. I can't suggest some other user's name when it is me who is updating it. So, updated by is also system generated. Whoever is updating that record, the name of the same user is captured. As I said, you cannot transfer updated by.